Greetings from the apocalypse. Today I wanted to talk to you about something that has been coming up in my questions and it comes up with students, and I want to discuss understanding the difference between creativity and capitalism. Creativity is something that's innate to humanity. All of you out there, I'm sure, know exactly what I'm talking about. It's something that it bubbles up and you have to put some activity in front of it. Because creativity, my big obsession, of course, is making jewelry, but there are a million things to do to be creative in the world. It's just something that really, I don't know, maybe it separates us from the animals. I don't know, maybe animals feel creativity too. I don't know. But I feel like it's this sort of uniquely human thing that we all have a desire to do on some level. And people also mix up creativity and expertise, which is also not the same thing. The desire to create something is what makes you human. The results can vary depending on, a million different variables. But just because you're not always happy with your result, it doesn't mean you're not creative. But capitalism. We all live in a late stage capitalist society. And unless you're born with a big inheritance, we all, to one degree or another, make choices and decisions and compromises according to having to live in the world, having to eat and take care of our loved ones and all of those things. But it's very important to remember that creativity, which is your innate human desire that makes you alive and full of soul, that is totally different from whatever you do to survive living in a late stage capitalist society. So a lot of people will mix up I like doing this, but I hate trying to come up with a line. And I'm like, okay, well, coming up with a line is something that you do to package your stuff to sell. That is about capitalism. That isn't necessarily about creativity. Now, it doesn't mean that you may not feel that you need to package your stuff to sell and do that to make a living, or to basically also just to help pay for everything, because as you all know, making jewelry is a pretty expensive pursuit. But don't mix up the two. Some people who are just doing this to be creative and enjoy it are then feeling pressured, but I should be in stores, or I should, as that always starts the voice in your head who's an asshole. I should be getting out there more. I should whatever. And there is nothing wrong with pursuing creative growth for the sake of creative growth. That's what makes you human. It's perfectly fine if you have your, let's say, capitalist needs taken care of another way. It's perfectly fine to not put a huge amount of pressure on yourself to succeed, economically in a pursuit that's supposed to be about love and joy and creativity and fun and, expanding your horizons and all of those things. Now, on the other hand, it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with taking your innate creativity and making a living out of it. I just think that people mix up the two, you know what I mean? That it's okay to keep them separate. It's okay to combine them, but don't put pressure on yourself and sort of mash down your creativity because you're worried about living in a capitalist society. You know what I'm saying? It's we all make those decisions. We all make those choices. There's nothing wrong with making them, but just know that you're doing it to make a living or to make some extra money, or, whatever it is, that has nothing to do with the value of practicing your creativity. That's an innate thing. Being yourself and finding your inner voice and making things and expressing yourself is a beautiful, fascinating, I think, part of being human. So just because, in other words, you don't make a big financial success does not mean that your pursuit is not successful. So I'm just putting this out there. Please feel free to comment and tell me how you feel about this. But I just feel like it's important to remind people that making a living is not the only goal, and it's not how you should judge your pursuits. And I don't mean to downplay the like as if like I was born, you know, with a silver spoon in my mouth, because I was not. I've been on my own since I've been 16 years old and taking care of myself completely ever since. So it's not that I don't understand the financial pressures that people are under. I mean, like when I was an apprentice, I was a cocktail waitress. I was way younger and skinnier and cuter then, and it was actually lucrative. But I understand that. But just make sure that you don't squelch all your joy in creativity in trying to think every minute about how to channel that into money. There's nothing wrong with figuring out how to channel it into money, but just make sure it doesn't squelch the joy and the fun of learning and progressing. Because for me, like, yes, I make a living based on my creativity, but if I were to lose my joy in it, then like, what's the fucking point? Then just, you know, go be an accountant or whatever, and then make jewelry for fun. You know what I'm saying? There's nothing wrong with making whatever decisions you have to make to do what you need to do. Just make sure that you protect and that you leave space for the fact that creativity is about joy and it's about exploring. And when I say it's about joy, that doesn't mean that everything will always be successful and go well, because as you all know, making jewelry is all about fucking up and fucking up and fucking up. And that's how you learn. So, but to me, that's enjoyable because it's a challenge, you know, and that keeps my brain really like active. And I guess, I think most creative people are like this. We're like any other little monkey in the zoo. We need lots of enrichment in our enclosure, or we start throwing our poop. So that's my deep thoughts for today. So just take it easy on yourself and remember that not everything you do to make a living should suck the fun out of being creative.